Welcome to the Iron Business Show, the YouTube series where we help gym owners who are generating $20,000 per month or less grow to $30,000 to $50,000 per month in revenue. If you don't know who I am, my name is Chris Tutela. I've been working in the fitness industry since 2006 and running my gym, Tutela Training Systems, over here in Clark, New Jersey since June of 2012. We have worked with thousands of people, helping them get stronger and transform their lives. And a few years ago, I partnered with my friend and mentor, Joe DeFranco, to launch the Iron Business Blueprint, a 90-day coaching program where we help gym owners like you grow their businesses, make more money, and have more freedom in their lives and businesses. We have helped well over 100 gym owners all over the world. So if you're ready to start growing your gym and get the real actionable tactics that you will need to truly grow and succeed in the fitness industry, you're going to want to click that subscribe button and make sure that you tune in to each and every episode. Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Iron Business Show. Today, I want to talk to you about a topic that a lot of gym owners really tend to get hung up on, especially if you're offering mostly personal training, or even if you're offering semi-private or group training, but you're still individualizing every program for every client. Guys, as you grow your gym, that becomes a nightmare. It's unsustainable. And right now, you might be spending hours every single week programming for your clients where you could be focused on growing your gym. And if you're watching the show, that means your business is stuck and you can't seem to get to that next level. Well, you got to look at what you're doing every single week. And if you're programming for hours every week, that's a giant bottleneck for you guys. Now, before I get into how we recommend designing a program for high-level group training, I want you guys to understand that I'm talking about the general population today. If you're training athletes who need to peak for their season or for a competition or an event, that's a different story. There needs to be a little bit more customization, and for the most part, that's probably not going to be the majority of your clientele or your business model. So what I'm talking about now is group training for adults, the general population, because this is how we recommend doing it. And it's going to make your life a hell of a lot easier, and you could still deliver high quality, real results. That is something Joe D and I will never sacrifice. We want to make sure that your training is top notch and that you're delivering a high-level service to your members, because we know that if you're listening to this show, that's what you want. You don't want to deliver schlock. You want to deliver real results for your clients. So let's talk about how we could do this in a more time-efficient way. So first off, when it comes to programming, or before we even talk about programming, that is, let's talk about how we get new clients on board, because you don't want to just sign up a new client and throw them right to the wolves, right into their first training session, right? The first thing you're going to want to do is have them come in for an onboarding assessment / orientation. And at this assessment, this is where you're going to do your deep dive into their goals, their medical history, their medications, their injuries, all the above, all the stuff that you already know. This is where you dive into that. And then you take them through a movement screening. What we typically do is we teach them our dynamic warm-up that we go through, so this way they're not lost on their first day when they come to their first training session. We explain how our program works. We give them a welcome gift, all that good stuff. So this way they are ready to hit the ground running when they come into their first session, and they're not running around like a chicken with their head cut off. Maybe you're not running around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to make sure everybody knows where to go and what to do, right? So an onboarding assessment is a must. Now, once they start training, it doesn't matter where we're at in the training program. They could start training right after their orientation, okay? Now, I'll explain this in just a minute so it makes a little bit more sense to you. But what we do is we design one program that's 3 training days per week, okay? And we design that for the entire group. And all we do is simply regress or scale the program to fit each individual's specific needs. Now, you're going to know their specific needs because they came into an orientation. So if you have a team, what's really important is that you are documenting all of the injuries and medications and things that you're learning about your new clients at orientation, you want to make sure you're relaying that information to your team. So for us, we use Asana. We have, each new client, we have their name in there. And then on their profile, we just list, whatever it is that they're dealing with. So our entire team is on board. Okay. So now when they come in, or for when you're designing your training program, the way we like to do it, you have one program, it's 3 days per week, and each training phase will last 4 weeks. Each phase will build off of the last phase, and every 5th phase, or you could even do every 6th phase, we do every 5, we test our members on our key indicator lifts. So we have a record board with these key indicator lifts. So this way our clients know if they're making real progress or not, okay? It helps us measure their success. Now, keep in mind, not only is that good from a training standpoint, where you're measuring their strength, their performance, but it's also great for client retention because people want things to look forward to. They want to see how they're progressing. They want to test themselves. So design your key indicator lifts in a way that's ideal for your primary demographic, right? Look at who you're training and make sure your key indicator lifts are aligning. You might not want to do a bench, squat, and deadlift if you're training people, 65 and older. So you got to look at who you're training and make sure that these key indicator lifts are aligned for them. But each phase of your program is building upon the last phase, and then every 5th phase or 6th phase, you're testing these members, okay? You're testing your members. And that's where you make it fun. You have your record boards, you do shout outs on social media, all that good stuff. Now, let's say you get a brand new client and you're in phase 3 of your program. You're not going to start them at phase 1. This is why I was talking about the general population. Obviously, if it's athletes, it's a little bit different. They need to peak for an event or for a season. But for the general population, guys, they could start at phase 3 or phase 4 or even phase 5 of the program. If you don't want them training with that level of intensity, that's cool. You could just simply adjust the rep range. And of course, you're going to be scaling the movement for that individual as well. So it's just simple tweaks. Okay. Now, here is what we really recommend. Create a database of all the regressions for each movement pattern. So this way, every new training phase, you sit down with your team or even yourself if you're just a one-man or one-woman show, and you look at what are the regressions for each exercise. Okay, cool. We have a squat programmed here. We have a barbell squat programmed. So anybody that's new, they're going to be doing a goblet squat to a box. Okay. We have a trap bar deadlift programmed. Anybody that's new, they're just going to be doing an RDL with a kettlebell, right? Simple regressions, same movement pattern, unless you can't do that movement pattern for whatever reason, but 9 times out of 10, you'll be just fine. You could simply just regress the exercise. But have that stuff pre-planned in advance to make coaching on the fly easy. That is key when it comes to group training. Okay. Now, we talked about 3 days per week. You want to design your program that way. We suggest that. So it's 3 training days per week. It'll allow you to maximize a small space because some clients will be training Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Some clients will be training Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Now, every client has 6 days to get their 3 training days in. And it's a lot easier to program where it's like, okay, the program is 3 days per week, period. That's what the vast majority will be doing. If you have options where it's like you could do once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, 6 times a week, unlimited, it's so confusing. How are you going to program like that for everybody if everyone's doing different shit? Now, if you have a downsell option where, let's say your program is 3 days per week, but you have a client who just cannot afford that for whatever reason, then you could downsell them into, let's say, twice a week, but that's going to be the few and far between. It's not going to be the majority. It won't be the norm. So they could you'll already have an understanding of where they're at that point, and they could just train twice a week. And if you're programming, let's say 3 full body days per week, if they're training twice a week, it's still going to be an appropriate frequency for them. They're still going to get the right amount of volume, the right amount of intensity, as long as you're programming it, correctly. So take that into consideration, guys. This way, it's a lot easier for you to program and scale, and you don't have to change things for every client. They will still get great results. They will still have a great experience, and you're still offering customization, and you're still tailoring it for that individual, okay? And what we do is we give everybody notebooks when they sign up with us. So now they're tracking the weights that they use, the reps that they accomplish with that weight. If there's any specific notes or anything like that, we have them make that in their notebook. So like, for example, a regression. We used a safety bar squat was programmed, but we regressed to goblet squat. So we know that client is sticking with goblet squats for the next X amount of weeks throughout this program, right? So it doesn't have to be overly complicated, but you do have to have structure and organization. Speaking of structure and organization, one of the key factors when it comes to group training is the flow of your training session. So when you're building out your space, you don't want to have pieces of equipment that are not ideal for group training. So for example, we know that a belt squat is a great piece of equipment, but if you're training people in groups, you're going to need multiple belt squats, which takes up a big footprint and it's expensive. Plus, you're going to have to really be like ripping plates off and making a lot of changes, because if you have people let's say in a group, you have 3 guys that are really strong, then you got a couple newbies, then you got a couple ladies who've never trained before, like that's going to be a friggin' nightmare. Because you're going to be changing plates and it's going to be very tough for you to manage. So you want to always keep the equipment in mind, when you're programming it, keep the flow in mind. So okay, we have X amount of people here, X amount of people here. This way you don't run into those traffic jams and then you get people standing around. It kind of kills the vibe and the energy. You want to set this up in a way where everything is smooth, and you just now, not only are you coaching, but you're kind of like directing the flow of the training session. You go here, and now that makes a much better, smoother training session. And of course, most importantly, it's still effective. Clients are still having a great experience and they're still getting great results. So that's the way we teach it, guys. That's a simple way for you guys to free up a lot more time out of your week, so you could focus on the things that will actually grow your business while still delivering a great service to all of your clients. You don't need to turn this into a boot camp. You could still offer high quality strength training, but your programming will be less individualized for every client and more customized based on where they're at. If you look at your program, here's how we could scale it back. And this way, everybody has a great experience and stays safe and trains hard. All right. So hopefully this episode helps you guys. If you want more help, feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram at Chris_Tutela, Tutela, or you can head to ironbusinessblueprint.com, book a call and fill out an application, and we'll talk about the Iron Business Blueprint to see if it is the right fit for you. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will catch you next time on another episode of the Iron Business Show.